Hello, this is Edward Southwick. I noticed your ad in Craigslist about trying to find a potential president among the general populace. I think this is a great idea, and it opens the possibility of gathering from a large audience of many talented individuals, a lot of whom might not ever have the opportunity to run, as things are so circumscribed now and having to run through certain channeled routes and everything, and then all the compromising and everything that goes on, and I don't necessarily end up getting the best potential candidates. This seems a little bit like the America's Talent Search and that type of thing, and can find some of the truly best talent. I also am interested just in the project itself and possibly getting more involved, whether I would end up being one of the people that you might eventually put up as a potential for president or not. I would just like to see someone in office that really could handle the problems that we're faced with today and the new environment and how shameless it's become, and we need a very special blend of traits, I think, in a president now. It has to be very strong, has to be logical, has to have excellent communication skills, has to be able to negotiate, all these different things. It'd be nice to have a president that had all the different qualities of President Obama, Clinton, strong qualities even of say a Donald Trump type, a little bit more in your face maybe when it's necessary. There are a lot of ideas that I have that I think would be useful for a president to run and get things accomplished in the country at this particular time. One of them, I'll just mention a few of these, is first of all using, for example, what you call, of course, the bully pulpit, where the president could come out maybe even on a weekly basis, say on a Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock for 30 minutes, and address the American people and talk with them about a particular issue that they're trying to get through Congress. It could be oil independence. It could be stopping frivolous lawsuits. It could be getting more money spent for research and infrastructure and for college, whatever it might be. And then having had surveys and possibly showing over 2/3 of Americans in support of this particular thing. And by the way, I do have a website called twothirsmajority.us where I talk about this very thing of 10 different issues in America that over 2/3 of Americans probably agree with, but yet our Congress never pushes them through because, of course, the special interest groups controlling them and not really listening to the American people's will. But anyway, if this was addressed every week, for example, on prime time, and it showed like 82% of Americans are agreeing with this, so it is the American people's will, but then showing the congressmen, leaders that are not going along with this, start putting some pressure on them, because it seems the only thing that will get them to actually do the bidding of the American people is to embarrass them into it and force them into it. And so that's why I think weekly pushing of this type of thing could be very important. Also a number of other things. Right now in our media, they have the various pundits get on television. The politicians talk back and forth about different issues, and they always get sidetracked on things, details, and things that really don't even mean anything. And I would propose what I call the 90-10 rule, where anytime you have two politicians, say a Republican and a Democrat, arguing about a point, and they get caught up on the what I call the 10% of the issue, where it's only 10% of the problem and really isn't going to make much difference even if you did everything you could for that 10%, but to work on the 90% of the problem. An example of this might be when they were pressing so hard on, I think it was McCain was really pushing on the pork barrel spending. And although this is abhorrent and people don't like pork barrel spending, still it's only about, I think, $15 billion out of a $1 trillion plus budget. So it's only around 1% of the problem, and yet so much time and effort was being spent on that, and how they had to cut out all pork barrel projects and everything, and a lot of them that might be good, but you got to concentrate on the 90% plus things, which would be more with cutting back on wasteful spending, bringing in more tax revenue, closing loopholes, things like this. And so really, whatever the issue might be, I think the person and the president or whoever's talking says, okay, well, listen, you're talking about 10% of the problem. I think we should be addressing 90% of the problem, and then keep refocusing it back on that so we can actually get something done. Another thing would be putting things in kind of the framework of, say, America as company USA. A lot of things that are done in politics and everything are just ridiculous, and if you looked at it as a country as a company, a lot of the policies, a lot of the things we do, the ineffective ways we do it would just not be tolerated in corporations. And so I won't go into detail on this, but I have an idea of how each time we say, well, if you were running a company, would you allow this kind of stuff to be going on? You know, wouldn't you be addressing 90% of the problem? Wouldn't you be doing this more effectively? Would you be wasting your time doing this? I think bringing it down to kind of down-to-earth things that people can relate to, even though it is a country we're running, could be helpful as well. Also, I think that there needs to be a push on the deceptiveness that is used now, where you can be technically correct and yet obviously be intending to deceive by just picking and choosing facts and taking things out of context and that. And I think that needs to be called for what it is intentional deception and a lie. And this is something that really needs to be talked about and worked about in politics and even in our legal system. And these are things that can start making a difference overall in the way our country is ran. It's just become so convoluted and difficult now to get anything done, because you can come out and criticize anything, and you can do it in any way possible, and there's no real guidelines on what you can say and intentionally deceive. And a lot of the American people, unfortunately, are not well read on the current issues and things, and so it's quite easy to mislead a lot of times, and we just need kind of a correction of the whole system. But someone, anyway, a president to come out and correlate these different things, educate the American people better on the process, bring things down to very simple explanations, a lot like Warren Buffett does when he explains things. And anyway, I am somewhat interested in politics. I basically was really looking more towards even a movement. I do have a website, twothirdmajority.us, which I mentioned, which has 10 different issues that probably over 2/3 of Americans would be in agreement with, but yet the Congress and our leaders have not pushed forward in solving these problems. And then also some ways of, rather simple ways of solving them. Campaign finance reform would be a big one too, so we could stop this "no more buy a politician," which goes on all the time. And you know, our president included, our politicians are working over half their time of their 2-year or 4- and 6-year terms just trying to gather money for their next election. And this is ridiculous. It's a terrible waste of time. It compromises them. Special interest groups are able to control their agenda and ask for favors. So a simple solution to this, and I have a number of, I think, rather simple solutions to some of our major problems, would just be to have publicly financed campaign donations, where we'd just take a small percentage of our tax dollars that come in and put those towards the elections. Just a few $billion would cover the Democratic and the Republican, the presidential, senatorial, and congressional elections. And then they could each be allotted a certain amount of money, and they just have to run their campaign within that. And it's just a very, very small percentage of all the money that comes in. It would save us so much more, and make sure that our politicians weren't being bought off. And this could be done just with the signing of a pen to change our laws on that, and not have any more by a politician, just take it out of our small portion out of our tax dollars. Anyway, I have a number of ideas that I think would be very effective and help to run the country better. And I'd like to maybe share some of those ideas and meet with you and maybe work with you on this project. Thank you.